Well, talk about turning it in just before we are in and we are off. Demo, all the bans have been secured, a double shield ban there. So Loud will be operating a little comfier against what they could assume to be a Liquid assault. And to be honest, Liquid are a team that can utilize shields well, Demo.
Yeah, I think it's something that they've shown. Certainly Blackbeard still being up, I think it's going to cause a lot of issues if they choose to go for that, just because Blackbeard has the nades, which the other shields don't have, which is just always going to be great for clearing little bits of util here and there. Obviously for Liquids, they have to win. They just go. If they lose this, they're out. Can't get top 6, and obviously for a team of their experience, size of the organization that they represent, if they don't get top 6, it's horrendous. It really is. Like, you have to think about it. This team made more changes this stage as well. You know, they made changes before coming into Reload. This is one of our partner teams. You know, they need to step up.
I think the thing as well is they have stepped up, but is it the question of too little, too late, right? If you're looking at this team and their fighting chances and the situation they were at, and there's a perfect way to start as STK is removed on Rocket Stairs. They have got their wins of their last 3 games. They sort of could have put a bit more pressure in. Obviously, you're looking at the ones just before the jump, and it's what, a 7-4 loss to NIP, and then you go into an 8-7 loss against Furia, and you're sort of like, okay, well, these are huge teams. That could be, oh, an 8-7 loss to ENX as well. Okay, well, we've seen them play well. Those 2 results go their way. They might not be in this position where they're fighting for a full fat win. Well, they wouldn't be. They would be having the benefit of an extra point either side. They would be more level. They could just try and get themselves into OT and get the win that way. It's an unfortunate way, but too little too late is sometimes the defining factor here in the league play. Live, under a huge sort of bout and pocket of pressure here. The Prox alarm will go in. They are popping in the top and trying to encircle the R6 room and trying to encircle the back of the site itself. There's a roaming bout of pressure as they go back in again. The mirror window on the reverse. It is going to put them in a bit of pressure here, but if they can win that first engagement as the Deimos track comes through, they need to do something because they're just being surrounded. Surely, in a second, someone swings behind him. There's the grenade to force the motion. The Deimos pushes up. The pressure's still around. Nesk does find Perez in the meantime, so gets the trade in the cover. And there's Nesk just entirely exploding. Bass stops them before Basetto gets himself a second, and Ask steps into where Nesk was and gets the Liquid end.
Really good execute onto that mirror window. Great teamwork. Nade goes in. Collapse happens. Gets them out of that position. Forces them back. Yeah. Love it from Liquid. Really good execute. Nesk seems to be on one today, which, look, it's always a player who you look towards on this Liquid side. He's been here since the organization entered into the scene of R6. And again, he's broke records after records before. And he has had question marks, I think, around him for quite a few years, thinking, surely he's done. Oh, that has to be him now. Another tournament loss. Oh, is he going to retire? Is he? That's what you hear. A lot of nearly after every tournament, after every stage, the same thing gets said time and time again, but he's still here.
It's one of the sort of truths and constants about this game, right? Is it would be hard to imagine a world of not just sort of Brazilian Siege, but Siege in general, and without Nesk there. But at the same time, we have to look at the talent that's sort of come behind him, and the talent that's sort of come after him is, they're good. They're damn good. You can't rest on your laurels in this region. There's always new gunners, new phrases, and new sort of fresh ideas, and that's not the same for every single region. And it makes it tougher to get your eventual win, fine, but then he pulls out rounds like that, and you're like, oh yeah, this is why he's still here. And he's just always got that potential, and to be honest, at the start of the season, he wasn't really. He wasn't quite able to get himself in. He wasn't quite able to get himself locked, but talking of, starts angling some pressure towards lockers on the bottom of the basement as they see if there is anybody that is fishing for a fight. Live is above. They will actually come to try and fight all of these people above as well, but it is a very reinforced setup here with the mute jammers and the mirror windows.
Yeah, Midjammer's going to slow them down with their info gathering. But they'll be able to get through it. You know, plenty of time. I feel like they're starting to approach in towards that mid floor. In terms of soft destruction, not a massive amount other than the breaching charges that a few operators have brought to the table. So, not your traditional way where we would see it operate like a ram, for example, be taken into the lineup. But still, it's a steady progress for Liquid. Loud though. With some phone calls, and there's the Fenrir trap goes off, but Maya still somehow wins it out against the shotgun nonetheless. Surely Daff is going to be winning them.
I think it's there. You're sort of having your expectations of that engagement and how they can flip towards Daffodil, but as live comes around the back, the calls are still going out. They haven't quite got control of anything yet, but now they have a man advantage. And they're going to use that to drop into the site. Reset swings onto Passetto. Huge take through the mirror window. That leaves just Live alone. They seem to have a good idea of where he is. And they've proved it via a gun.
This is looking sharp. Really, really sharp from Liquid. They have the game plan. They know what they want to do. I think they're picking the correct operators with the playstyle, where they are lurking for those picks, using that Dokkaebi call to their advantage. Definitely think Daffo should have won that first one, though, against Maya. But, yeah, just didn't happen for them. And they have called a very early timeout after 2 rounds. I mean, this is, of course, the biggest game of the stage so far for both of these teams. And don't forget, if Liquid take the clean victory, where they get all 3 points, then it will be Loud who get knocked into 7th, and that's where they will remain. Doesn't even matter how Black Dragons get on later on. Loud, they need to have at least a point to keep themselves in the running. That's what they need. They need the point. Liquid need all 3. We know that. We've seen the graphic earlier on. A lot to play for, and Loud, they do not want to go into an early, heavy deficit. Try and stop it now before it snowballs out of control.
I think that's it, right? It's, as you said, another really early timeout, but it's also that idea of how teams like to hold themselves up here, how teams have sort of struggled. Liquid have usually been a bit cold when they get into these maps and have sort of struggled at points. Lair itself, across all the regions, prefers defenders. 56% is the average. Not a huge plant amount, but still something that it sort of sets itself into. Get the read on how it is
10 seconds to go.
in LATAM itself, but I think that is proving a little bit problematic on my stats thing. But I assume it's the same.
Don't fall into the Jesse J chick trap.
I'm trying
you know?
to.
You take away that man's laptop and he crumbles.
He does. He was born with that laptop. Terrible for his mother. Liquid 2-0. They have themselves the read on, and they now have a timeout from the courtesy of Loud. So Loud only have the game ahead of them to play at this point. They have to try and shake the approach here. If Liquid get themselves an even attack split, they're already statistically better than what most teams have managed here on this site. And at this point, Loud, they've opted to not go back towards the top. Gonna see if they can try and make it stick elsewhere this time round. Bunks briefing as they've got the hold. A quick break and an impact will break it right back. Now is another smoke canister just to try and stop them being able to get a clean impact. It's much harder to get that trick at this point. There's just pressure being put through, and they will get it breached open, but that's just step 1 demo.
And just need to be careful, of course, because there is a glass on the side of Liquid, and he isn't aware if those smoke grenades get tossed in. Then yeah, it will cause them some issues. Maya will start placing in some of those smokes that will be able to have the cover, and like I said, there's the glass. Not aware. He will be good for at least 1 kill, and that diffuser will get stuck. And wow, this is clinical from Liquid. They have that game plan. Look at Maya, by the way, just in a complete random corner inside the site. No one is going to expect him to be there, so surely he'll be left at least 1 kill.
Well, this is it now. The 5 versus 4 is actually balanced back out as Daffodil does get Maya. I don't even know if it's Daffodil, it's just Daffo. But the flower that is in bloom is everything in Diaz's scope here. Falls apart too, Ness gets another, and the timeout, oh, unfortunately nets them nothing. Diaz does as Diaz must, and causes others to die as.
Very, very good. Again, Liquid. Again, a different approach than what they've done previously. Look at that basement attack. It was slow. It was just looking for those opportunities. That was just, let's just go direct. Let's just bring in the Ying, the Capitao, the Glads, these operators, which work really well in conjunction with one another, and just go for the plant. Just hope it works. And Loud just getting caught out. I mean, this Loud team, I think, has struggled sometimes to really get themselves back into games. You know, I think they shown it during the early stages of the play days. If Plan A didn't work for Loud, that was it. They've really struggled, I think, to think on their feet and come up with what's or to try and come up against what's been presented in front of them.
I think it's sort of this strange split here of there's almost more pressure in a weird way on Loud because they had such a good run. And then it's all potentially crumbled here at the very end. They've had their early timeout. Now they've lost the round either side of it. Liquid have just looked solid.
10 seconds left before
Fully of a better phrase. All the takes have looked really good. The middle one had a bit of, you know, maybe a bit of back and forth scrappy moments, but they sort of read entirely what the hold was, found ways to break through, and has done that time and time again. The pressure. When we were up here, on towards R6, the sitting, the waiting, the close down on that mirror position, with the grenades, with the Deimos, was just really, really well put together. And then it built panic in Loud, who kept on trying to swing in. We saw it there as well in that last round. They did everything they needed to do, and then didn't do anything extra, because that's where mistakes happen. That's where things can get punished. And then not giving Loud those ins, they have to try and make them themselves. Blackbeard of resets. Isn't quite going to go make friends on the Sky Bridge yet. Seeing who is home. A couple of players that will peel their way back towards green and get a bit closer towards the site. Liquid seeing if they can just kind of Sherpa them without being immediately in the firing fight.
Was that Ying ban has left that Blackbeard open. We mentioned that certainly Liquid can play those shields, and resets is straight on that Blackbeard now because of it. And we know the strength of this operator. I think we've harped on about how it's way too much sometimes. Just, I mean, he is still kind of new in a way, because it's not like he's been out for like a crazy long time. It's still fairly fresh, and certainly in this current meta where all the shields are just really, really strong, as they have been, I suppose, for the past 2 years. It's still always a hot topic. And for resets, what he can do, take that early ground over towards Skybridge, and seeing if he can work his way over towards these two defenders who are just outside of sight, just quarters outside of it. The Chanka trying to hold him back, though, at the moment, but so he's going to be chased away as that Deimos is lurking below.
Find themselves a little bit more time with the Kivas, tucking themselves back into the site, and even going for the reinforce. Oh, the Blackbeard! Oh, he wasn't too late, because somebody was underneath Ask! Picked up the freebie there. They thought they'd done a little bit of daylight robbery, but Live was the one with their pockets picked. Now, with 50 seconds and a knock on the door here, Liquid, they have that first read once again, an alternate take. It's had some structural sort of pushback from it. They've forced the players further and further away, but where are they going to try and stick the plant? Resets, he's tucked himself all the way across the divide. Perez is watched! I'm not entirely... Oh, from the window! From outside, and Daffo cannot swing that without being caught himself. There's Ness getting it anyway. Another for Diaz. And Ness must have been on that rappel for a long time. Could contribute with his gadget and with his gun. Brilliant.
I mean, you just sit in the window, just do what you want to do and ask. I mean, the team Just so clean, pushing in, using that util, looking for that plant. I mean, very close though for Loud. You know, they had plenty of util. The Echo drone, I think, was able to connect with one hit. And then that was it. He had none left. He had to play with guns up. So yeah, very close from Loud. But again, Liquid just are on top of the game today. They really are. And like we mentioned, Loud, they used their timeout incredibly early. And it was... They used that timeout to try and stop what was happening to them right now. That's the issue.
I think that's it, is, you know, Liquid have already done more than enough on their attacks, but they're doing them so well. And this is a Liquid that we have rarely seen throughout this season. You know, obviously we weren't doing the last and the most recent sort of play days, but when we had the opportunity to sort of cast Liquid, there were moments, there were mistakes, but a lot of the rounds came in off of huge plays, right? They came off of a
just
player.
by watching them.
Yeah, at times, sure, but also like they would have big clutch moments, but it would come off the back of a player going crazy. This has been so orchestrated, Loud. They're being played like a fiddle, and you know, without their timeout, without their ability to break the momentum, now 2 rounds down, it's almost like they're just sort of holding out hope that they can get to the half with at least some limbs still attached.
Everyone from Liquid stepping up, doing their part. Loud struggling for kills massively. Nobody above 3 kills. There's 2. That's all they've had in 4 rounds. Liquid. Looking hot. And we head into this basement again. Last time for Liquid, it was abusing that Dokkaebi. See if they could find these picks off the back of the information. Now they've changed it up again. They've went a little bit more traditional. The ram comes in. Great for clearing out that verticality. Hold above. Looks to be 4 players actually roaming right now. Only 1 player inside the bomb site. So Loud are committing a lot of eggs into their basket here. And will it pay off? Not at the moment, as they lose that first opening engagement.
Again, things slipping away from Loud's grasp here. It's an 100% entry statistic into the favor of Liquid. It's been picked up by mainly Maya. 3 different Liquid players have been able to get that opening into their favor. That is 50% of the total kills that Loud have been able to get across these opening rounds here. Now, as I said, this one had a couple of moments, but it came down to a 1 versus 3, so Liquid still had a very good read. STK that is on the roam, on the flank. His position might be one that puts on some pressure as the breach comes towards the site itself. How much control are Liquid trying to get? As I said, they've been really, really good at getting what they need, and then that's about it. But as Daffo gets ready to swing on the close angle, I'm wondering where this first engagement might pop, and the sort of Perez that suffers a lot, but does get Maya. Why are they just in fire from a Capital bolt, you assume, which is why they took so much damage, but they have to trade in 20 seconds. Us just screams in. Basso gets 1 as well on the split. There's Diaz with another. Just putting pressure on now. One of the players is loose, misses their moment. It's another 3 versus 1. Tries to find their way, but above. The Long Watch has the kit, goes to the other site. Blinds the player, gets themselves all the way in. And there's the plant going down, connected. They have the pings. Plays the hatch. Has to be watched from the range. The ram moves out, extends the gunfight. Covered by the smoke on the other side. Liquid, they predicted it all. They read the future, the tarot cards. And the future is 5 Liquid rounds.
Really good smoke. Not only is it allowing him to plant, so he's not going to just get killed while he's going for the plant, but also allows him to reposition out of that. Actually, pretty much saved them from getting into that better position. Liquid, just on it again. I mean, Diaz, big plays. Same with Ask. Really great stuff from these Liquid players. So, I mean, especially Diaz started off the stage really struggling, you know? And I think for a player, obviously, coming into this region where, you know, we've seen him the past, I don't know how many years inside of NA. It was a big change for him, especially playing for, big organization over here in Brazil. It'll be a different feeling than playing for the likes of Exet, which is where he started off. And then obviously we see him at stints in M80 and Oxygen. Just a different mojo that you get for playing with Liquid compared to those organizations that we see inside of NA. And he struggled to get a grip of it. And yeah, he's played really well in that round. And one thing as well, I will say about Liquid, the roles that he has to play are sometimes really difficult roles. Like, it could be the case of playing those shields, which, yes, as strong as they are, you have to be really careful whenever you play them, because one false misstep with shields, dodging C4s, turning your back at the wrong time, you can all be punished by playing that operator, those kind of operators. So, yeah, it's not been easy for him, but finally, we're starting to see a Liquid team mesh and gel. And like I said, the biggest game of the season for them, they're finally showing up.
5-0. Just did not expect it. At this point, they could just hit the tertiary twice and have this wrapped up. But guaranteed that is not going to be satisfying enough for them. A well-oiled machine seems to be Liquid's game today. I don't think I would have guessed this. Now, the Impact does put the break in, but this time, they have those angles. They worked with the Glaz last time. They snuck in a plant on the cover. There's the follow-through of that Selma. We'll get the break in the middle. Now, there's always the opportunity of doing this and not quite knowing what you're going to have. There could be some problematic lines in the hard breach. They also start to get some awareness of the top of green. Get some control of the back of the site this time around Pillar. Also out a smoke canister. See a long rotate on towards Skybridge as well. The gridlock of resets is in a position here, but they don't have any more control of greens. They don't have anyone underneath. And that's that worry that somebody just decides to pop a head up and find a fight. You can see they're tempted by the ideal. It's a game of chicken almost.
It's tense. Very, very tense. I think first blood may be crucial here for both of these sides. Liquid now starting to move in and use that util and see if they can gather around that pushing force. But no, seems to be stalling out with that smoke. A quick jiggle peek from SDK is enough for the down, but Liquid, their focus has been towards the staircase, but they've been eliminated. And Nesk now has a 1v3, more or less. He has to try and clutch up for, unless he chooses to go for the revive on the Diaz, who will now get taken up by STK, but Nesk still able to get one, and two more to find with 40 seconds. Is it doable?
Well, he pushes his way in towards the smoke and... oh, just misses a big moment in the smoke. Swaps to the other side, pre-fires the shotgun. Oh, it's such a delicate game here. You can see the supporters trying to get itself close. Oh, either side of the shotgun, but SDK does find at the end. 5-1, they have a single round of breathing room. But there were moments there. You couldn't believe he could do it.
Again, it's just so tense. You really cannot call how some of these rounds will go. You know, close again. I feel definitely for Loud, they really need at least something. You know, one's better than zero. I think everyone knows that. Again, no brain comment there. Off it. It gives them maybe the opportunity, but it's still such a slim chance. You know, Liquid move on to the defense, and certainly it's a side which they'll be happy with. You kind of look at the stats off this map. You look at Lair. We've only just seen it, I believe, the one time during this stage, and we've seen six defensive wins on it. So, by that logic, you would say that Liquid at least get two.
I mean, at this point, as I said, they only need to lock in the weakest of their sort of sights here, but
5 seconds to go.
they also have a lot more that can go into their favor. Loud. Everything has to be flawless.
Use a bomb.
As designed.
And, you know, it's just such a thin margin. 2 shields banned. Basetto brings the blitz, brings that gap.
Changing mags.
With Ask on the clash as well, they're going to try and make this first round uncomfortable. Stress them out, stretch them out. Is the MO. Loud have to try and rebuild their pace, rebuild their pressure, and rebuild their hopes. After having such big wins against the top 2 teams of the region, to potentially falling here at the last hurdle.
Here we go. Loud. First attack. And they're going to need to win it. They want to set really good tempo for the rounds to come. Their lineup. Got a bit of spice in there with the blitz. Of course, the Grim, which will help up massively whenever you're looking at taking rooms, such as, of course, the art window. And I think mezzanine as well is always an area where I think the shields really do excel, because it is kind of a corridor where you can get swung from 2 different angles. Having the shield for that little bit of info will be great. Of course, you have to get there. But, however, actually looking for the opposite side. Not opting for, you know, the kind of traditional take where you like to jump in towards bathroom, for example. At the buck below as well. See if he can root out some players, but resets towards the R6 room. Moment is going to try and be the first line of defense for them. C4, though, will be wasted, so that is good news for the shield. But this is a deadly crossfire. Almost 3 players kind of looking at the one direction. So for the blitz, needs to really pick his moment.
Ooh. Again, thin fights, trying to fish out underneath, but they're more than happy to try and fight live in these engagements. And now with half health, the next one live takes has to be a lot more controlled, a lot more sort of angled to the right situation. Defo! Rotten timing on the blind of a teammate, but Basetto's able to get one. Defo picks up the second. Suddenly the clash is over here, trying to piece things back together. It's a similar sort of take from the players underneath, but oh, where can you go? Nowhere. That was an execution. Got on cam, and that puts us in the 5 versus 2. Loud. Finally show themselves in. Show up. As they get Ask and leave just Maya alive. They're going for the plant. Won't be a flawless. But at this point, with them watching the verticality, with them watching every single door and swing chance, Loud get themselves a second.
That's what they needed. They needed to get that first attack and builds that momentum early for them. And they need to keep it going. Yeah, using the operators in the correct positions. Again, the shield working well, the util dump. Yeah, everything for Loud. Good, solid first start for them. Liquid, I don't know. Maybe did they need to try and retake below? Maybe try and put more pressure onto that Buck, who again was causing them issues. And there's a hefty amount of verticality, of course, that you can have on this map for both top floor, mid floor, and this bottom floor. But anyway, we digress and we move into our basement now for Liquid, who have went for a certainly seems to be a bit of a mix in terms of the defense that they have, because it looks as though they're going to go above, probably with castle barricades, set up a hefty hold above, maybe even taking some mirror windows if needed. But then they still have that plant denial. You've got the smoke, you've got the Chanka, so you're kind of hoping that you're going to waste a lot of time upstairs. And whenever finally Loud have been able to clear above, which you hope inevitably they will do, then you're just trying to hit them in that final minute. Whenever they're looking for that plant, you have that util ready to go.
It was a very, very good procedural destruction of the hold there. And at this point, they're maybe not going to allow them to get that same vertical pressure they applied, or at least force it in a different manner. On a different site here, but Loud did everything they needed to. The longer they can keep Liquid off of map point, the less pressure they have to live under, but also a 5-1, terrifying. 5-2, still kind of scary. 5-3, suddenly you're close to touching distance at that point. If they can get themselves this sort of perfect opening rotation, maybe the one on the addition, at what point then do Liquid take their time out? Because if they wait, if they lose this round and then wait, then suddenly if they lose the next round, they're within touching distance. And they've given Loud that opportunity to have that conversation. Loud just need to get to overtime. Liquid need the full 3.
No kills as of yet. Loud will just be taking their time. See if they can clear out this roam game, of course. That shield. But not a lot happening at the moment. So that now they're going to start focusing over towards the site. These castle barricades will be swiftly dealt with by the Habana. Now, just based on where you can kind of see the Loud players positioned, it looks as though that they want to try and take in towards Boiler. But that's kind of where you think Liquid would want them to kind of play in towards. And, oh my, not a lot of damage well done by Perez. Looks still pretty healthy. And now I think, Ash, maybe it's the time to fall back.
Yeah, I mean, he's got it right. He's still going to sit in the smoke for a little bit longer. He's trying to draw as much attention as possible. He's about to get some from a shield. The call comes out, and oh, the shield got separated. And he still gets one on the back, but does get traded out. Live gone, the buck gone. Maybe they'd done all the work they needed to, and the Tachanka fire stopped somebody else screaming in behind. Did the buck get a bit distracted? There's a couple of holes open. At this point now, 30 seconds. The Tachanka wasting time. Diaz gets Pasetto. And it's a back and forth blow. Perez
Tachanka
sneaks their way in, and the Tachanka's gone. There goes Nesk as well. The mirror's off the border. 2 versus 3, 15 seconds. But the kit still above the hatch. Daffo takes the drop. Slips his way around the back. 8 seconds. SDK. He's trying to find a fight before the timer's on. He knows if they swing at the last second, it's an easier fight. It's a 2 versus 1. Either side of him. There's the drop. There's the planter. That is Liquid. Securing themselves OT. That is not what they want. They have 4 chances, 4 opportunities to get themselves in playoffs and remove the chance for Loud.
Wow. Liquid. So close to losing it. I thought for a minute, maybe they kind of botched it. You know, you've allowed that player to drop the hatch and get in for that plant. The 2 players remaining there for Loud, they were so separated from one another. One guy in sight, one guy still above the hatch. I don't know how they were able to kind of meet up in the middle there and one cover, one go for the plant, but just that crucial, that first spray from the Dokkaebi, he needs to kill that man, because as soon as they knew where he was, the jig was up, and it was so easy for them to clean up house at that point. So just one little engagement didn't go their way, and yeah, Loud will get punished for it, and Liquid on the cusp of doing it and sending themselves into that playoff spot. 1 round. You have 4 chances to do it.
Can they go this final distance of a long, long season? All of them have stepped up in this game. All of them sitting positive. All of them having these moments. And we complimented their attacks on how sharp they were, how consistent they were, how well orchestrated they seemed to be. And at the same time, Loud. I mean, they've had some amazing performances against some of the biggest teams of the region, but against the teams that they should be beating, not saying this is one of those, but against the games where they have it in their favor, unfortunately, that isn't where they are their best.
Oh, here we go. Loud. Sacked off the shield entirely. Which did work for them the first round, but the second round, not as much, because they had a few issues with the smoke. Now, this operator here, the Clash, that's a tricky one. Because really, what do Loud have? A Capital? Is it the greatest counter to a Clash? Maybe, but I think in my eyes, maybe not. I think you'd much rather have your Zoph, your Callies, or your Nomads, the actual hard counters to the shield. For Live is actually downstairs, almost catching out Nesk, who just sat on top of the vertical holes and almost gets picked off, but now Live, he will make himself known, and the double peek from Nesk. Somehow Live doesn't kill him again. What's going on?
Massively hurt once again, the Buck, and you know how instrumental the Buck can be in this situation. Was so great at defining their play, getting loud to win the last time we were here. To the point where if this round actually goes away from Liquid, there's a chance they just ban the Buck. But here, cover of the smoke, the pressure on towards Walkway, they've tucked themselves in on Ops, and the Clash, are you aware? Seemingly not. They're swinging down on rocket stairs, trying to find a fight elsewhere, and they're about to be blinded and stunned and shocked. There's the coverage of the smoke. They roll onto the Clash. The Clash just tries to get out of there. It's a break on towards Bathroom in the top of our 6 room, but that gets them a little bit of control. And it got them the first step. Are they going to try and move behind it? There's the breach onto the wall. There's an Azami. Nesk. They are that problem person right now in a fight that might happen on the bottom of the stairs as Maya is trying to flank their way up behind Live. Live is not fully aware. Maya gets one, and the Clash is tempted to move in. Swings with the shield on their back. Resets and Ask. Get one apiece, and there's another for the Clash. Spinning and circling. As everything starts to fall apart, Basetto, all that is left. All that is circling is the drain. As they are being washed away here. Liquid get to playoffs. Loud falls short, and what a way. What a difference of fortunes and favors and fates for these two teams. But Liquid, for today, are the victors.